Welcome Dash fam, best Dasher alive here, aka Dash Master Plus, and today I'm breaking down the best ways to save time door dashing. Now this first one is definitely not going to apply to everybody, but there is a small group of dashers this will apply to, and this has been my situation, and it has been phenomenal for saving time and making really good earnings, as you can see in some of my previous videos where I share what I made in a month, what I made in a week. So tip number one, if possible for you, is to dash from home. Let me break this down. I live right across the street from a bunch of DoorDash restaurants. Half a mile away, there's a bunch more. Another half mile farther than that, there's even more. So I'm literally just right in the mix of a bunch of really good DoorDash restaurants. So I can just sit at home and fill the orders, and when I get a good one I like, then I can go complete the delivery. If I get more good ones while I'm out there, I'll just keep doing deliveries. If I don't get anything good, I'm back home literally within 5 to 10 minutes after I drop off that delivery. And what that allows me to do is sit on the app all day long and not have any wasted time sitting in my car or traveling around waiting for orders. I'm just at home, or I'm right back home, and I can do any other tasks that I want to do or any other things that I want to do to make money. I can just chill and hang out and relax. Ultimately, that works as a huge time saver. Also, I think a real thing to consider is getting an office in an area that is DoorDash restaurant dense. Meaning just grab offices next to really good DoorDash restaurants. And you can grab, and usually there are empty vacant offices, 500, 800 bucks. So if you're pulling in 3, 4, 5 grand, maybe more a month, then that's not a terrible decision to make to get an office. Save you time, you can work on other things in there, it can be a tax deduction. The next biggest way that I found, and maybe this is even the number one way that I found to save time, in Ebike. The area matters, as always with door dashing, but if you're in an area where you can grab 3, 4, 5, 6 mile deliveries pretty consistently, I think there's a really good argument for just doing e-bike deliveries. You don't have any gas costs, you don't have to do registration and insurance. Maintenance is a lot less expensive on an e-bike, and you have a different set of road rules that can lead to some time-saving opportunities. You don't have to park in the car spots, you can go straight up to the door and walk in. If it's an apartment complexes and you have to park and then you have to like walk in on sidewalks to get to the place, you can just cruise your bike on all those sidewalks. And then also when cars get stuck at lights or there's a big line, you can just cruise right by them in the bike lane. Next is to schedule your dashes. Now you don't absolutely have to do this, but sometimes if you're like, oh, I want to dash now, it might not be busy enough and you might not be able to. But if you're able to schedule things ahead of time, I mean, I personally schedule things as far out in advance as I can on DoorDash, and I schedule the time slots as soon as they become available so I can get which ones I want. This next one is going to vary area to area, but I think it's a good rule of thumb, at least to gauge and try and abide by if possible. You might learn that this isn't possible in your area, but I like to try and stick to $2 a mile or better, meaning that like if I have to travel, if the offer comes and it says you have to travel 4 miles, then what I'm going to get paid from that needs to be over $8. Now I'm really looking for like 3 or 4 times the amount of money to the mileage. So if it's like 3 miles, I want to make $9, $10 off of that. This one will take a little bit of time. You're probably not going to learn this in your very first dash. It might take a couple dashes to kind of get a better idea, but some restaurants just don't do very well with DoorDash. They're slow, their employees don't really care about DoorDash, and so you just learn to avoid those. Also knowing your city and your streets and your stop signs and signals better than Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever maps you choose to use. If you're waiting at a restaurant for an order, pull up the address of where you're going to drop off and look at the directions and just familiarize yourself with the route. There's definitely some areas where you won't want to do this in, and even in safe areas, I still, if you're doing this, still keep an eye, pay close attention. Maybe don't even turn off your car. Maybe just leave your car unlocked and running. That's also going to be less wear and tear on your car. And then if you're constantly having to unlock your phone and type in passcodes, that just gets very annoying. And then also it makes it really easy to miss a delivery, an offer, or a stack if it comes. I think it's worth, when you're pulling up to a restaurant or to a customer's house, to consider your exit and park your vehicle accordingly. Instead of dropping off the food and then you have to go make a U-turn and go back by the house, make that U-turn before you go drop off the order, so that way when you get in your car, you're just out of there quick and easy. Or if it's a parking lot, for example, and you're able to just pull through the space, so when you get back in your car, you just put it in drive and go and not have to reverse and then put it in drive and go. Little things like that can be helpful. I know some people are scared of apartment complexes, and they definitely can be more time consuming, especially in a car. But my approach has been more like, just get good at apartment complexes. Especially if you're on a bike, that really saves so much time when you're having to go take sidewalks and walk around buildings to try and find the right apartment. If you're able to do that on a bike, it's honestly so much faster. But also in a car, I just think if you're constantly worried about if it's an apartment complex and I gotta avoid apartment complexes, you just could be missing out on good orders. And if you just become more of a G at navigating apartment complexes, then those are good orders for you to take. Slightly controversial, I did mention this in another video. There's definitely a percentage of people that disagree with me here, but I think do not communicate, and especially don't over communicate with your customers. I think most people, they literally just want the food dropped off and that's it. Very rarely is someone actually looking for like a person-to-person interaction with the DoorDasher. You need a gate code or something's confusing, absolutely communicate with your customers. But as a way of like getting better reviews or getting more money, avoid it, it'll save you time. Be attentive. This is when you're pulling into parking lots, this is when you're walking into the restaurants. It's always interesting to me, but sometimes, especially if you're in a car, for some reason, cars will just line up in one lane for no reason. And if you just look and go to the side of them, you've got a whole wide open lane that could have saved you 2 or 3 minutes on your trip. Same thing with when you're walking into a restaurant. Don't feel like you have to wait in a line. Like, figure out, find an employee that's not distracted, that you can ask a question, give a little nudge and try and speed things up a little bit. If you're picking up a stacked order, so you've got to pick up at 2 different restaurants, if the one's not ready, go grab the other one and then come back. You can switch your stacks around as you need to. You don't have to do it in the order that it originally shows you. Malls can be incredibly time consuming. Sometimes you have to park far away, which can take a lot of time, and then you have to walk really far, which can take a lot of time. So if I'm in a car, I avoid malls. On an e-bike, it's a different story. Maybe it'll depend a little bit on the mall, but the ones around here, if I'm on an e-bike, I don't hesitate because I can pull right up to the door on an e-bike. And if you gotta use the bathroom and you're trying to save some time, when you're going to pick up your next order at the restaurant, sneak in the bathroom break in the middle of an order on your active time.
Yeah. Yep.